Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for attending. Really appreciate it. We have our lovely Margot here this evening. She is one of our client managers and chases down the instructors on behalf of the client managers and makes sure that everybody gets what they need. And then Larissa does mostly our marketing, but she also helps with the distribution of inquiries, and also will deal with some inquiries, especially the Facebook inquiries and various other places we get inquiries from. And then I am the instructor fellow person who sort of looks after everything. So everybody, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending. Really appreciate it. At the end of this evening's discussion, I will make available the document which I am going to be working off for you all. So at the end of this evening's discussion, I will make available this document that has all the images and the links of what we are actually working on this evening, okay? So I'll make that available for you and you guys can go and get this yourselves. All right, so let me start this, and I'm just going to share screen with you. Let me get that going. Okay, there we are. That's it. There we are. How's that? Okay, everybody. All right, so what we are discussing this evening is dual carriageways and motorways. Now, basically, the basic construction of a dual carriageway and a motorway are the same, but there are some marked differences between a dual carriageway and a motorway. All right, so let's start here. What you can see on your screen, if you're looking at it, is you've basically got dual carriageways and motorways. Now, why is it important to know what the difference is? It's the physical conditions of the two types of road in terms of speed are different, and there is a different approach to a dual carriageway and a motorway. But in the end, the actual speed you do on the road is the same. Now, does anybody know what the speed limit difference is between a normal A road dual carriageway and a motorway? What is the difference in the national speed? Okay, so let me give it to you. On a dual carriageway, the national speed limit from the national speed limit sign is 70 miles per hour. On a motorway, the national speed is 70 miles per hour. So there is actually no difference on a dual carriageway and a motorway on the maximum speed limit, which is the national speed limit. But what happens is on a motorway, the difference is whether you have street lamps or not. The speed limit on a motorway, unless otherwise indicated, is 70 miles per hour. So when it says motorway, they don't need to put up a sign that says national speed limit. That is, the national speed limit is 70 miles per hour on a motorway, whether there are street lamps or not. Now, you need to go back to one of the webinars we did I think it was last week or the week before. Was it last week? Where we spoke about how to identify speed limits just by physically what the physical identification of speed limits are. If you go back to last week's webinar, you'll see a full explanation of that. So on a motorway, by the nature of a motorway, the speed limit is 70 miles per hour. If they want to bring the speed limit down on a motorway for any reason whatsoever, they need to put in signage to bring down that speed limit. On a dual carriageway, the speed limit on a dual carriageway, national speed limit, is also 70 miles per hour. But if there's street lamps, the speed limit is immediately 30 miles per hour, which is not the case on a motorway. And that means that the speed limit naturally on a dual carriageway, A road, any A road or B road, where it's a dual carriageway, which means that there are two lanes going in one direction and two lanes going in the opposite direction, normally with an island in the middle or a dividing line in the middle. The moment you have dual carriageway, in other words, two lanes going in both directions, you have two lanes going, and there's some sort of divider in the center, that becomes a dual carriageway. The speed limit is 70 miles per hour, but if there are street lamps there, then that means it's 30 miles per hour. If they want you to travel at a different speed, they've got to put in signage to tell you to travel at a different speed, and they've got to put up reminder signs. So they might want you to do 50 miles per hour in an area where they've got street lamps on a dual carriageway. Then they will have to put up signage for 50 miles per hour. But if on a motorway they put up street lamps and they don't want you to do 70 again, they have to put up signage. Because on a motorway, whether there are street lamps or not, you can still do 70 miles per hour if there's no other signage. Then the other difference is permitted vehicles. On an A road dual carriageway, there are no restrictions in vehicles. You can use a bicycle, you can use a disability scooter, you can use anything you like on an A road. The problem, though, is that what they do is, because it might be a dual carriageway, they might put up signage which says no horse-drawn carriages, or no steam engines, or no this or no that, because steam engines are quite slow normally. They only do about 15 to 20 miles per hour maximum. So on a dual carriageway, then they will allow you to use almost any vehicle unless they restrict the vehicles. If they don't, you can go there with your horse-drawn carriages, you can go there with your horse, you can do whatever you want with a bicycle, whatever. But on a motorway, you are only allowed cars, motorcycles, and buses, and heavy vehicles, goods vehicles. So those are the things that you are allowed to use on a motorway. But you can't go there with horse-drawn carriages or with steam engines or with anything else. If you have to say you have a steam engine that you need to use a motorway, then you will have to get special transport vehicles that go with you while you are on that motorway. And you'll have to get special permission to do that. But by the nature of a motorway, you are not allowed to do that. On an A road, you will find that an A road might have things like a roundabout in it. It might have a traffic light in it. It might have normal T-junctions coming onto it. There are various roads coming onto an A road. An A road can also have slip roads onto the A road and off the A road. So it just depends on how they want to deal with that. The A406, in certain sections of the A406, it's very much like a motorway, but they limit the speed limit to around about 50, 40, or 30. There's nowhere that I know of where the actual A406 has a speed limit higher than 50 miles per hour. The maximum on that dual carriageway is only around 50 miles per hour. And the trouble with the A406 is it has multiple junctions on it, traffic lights. It has yes, it has some roundabouts on it as well. So the A406, for instance, around in London, the inner ring road, as they call it, has a number of junctions on it. And that's normally what an A road is like. An A road can have a roundabout on it. It can have various other things on it. Whereas a motorway will have a straight through. And everything happens with slip roads coming onto the motorway and going off the motorway. The motorway does not normally have traffic lights on it unless they are doing roadworks or something like that. But normally a motorway is a clear way. It's clear. You can drive at a certain reasonable speed most of the way, and it's only where they've got really complicated repairs that they might put some sort of restriction on the road. We drove up to Birmingham this week for a conference and came back on the A414 because there was an accident on the M1, and we drove straight. Once we were on the road, there were on the motorways, there are no restrictive junctions on that actual motorway itself. I have a question. Somebody said, why do you call it A and why do you call it A4S or A6S? It's just a nomenclature. We will look at the M25. We will look at how the M25 is actually nomenclatured. We will actually look at that, guys. I want to show you that. It's really interesting. There is a section and you guys can start looking at it. Why does the M25 change into an A road? at a certain point and then back onto the M25 again. I'm going to offer you guys a £10 gift voucher. So if anyone can tell me why the M25 changes from M25 to an A road in a certain area, and then it carries on as an M road. So there's a £10 gift voucher coming up for the person who can tell me that. So the signage, who wants to give me, is there anybody who wants to tell me what the difference is in the signage? It's actually on here. It's green background.
Colors.
Yes.
She's going to say colors, hoping I can still keep my license.
Okay, yeah, it is colors. The signage on a motorway, has a blue background signage, and on an A route has a green background signage. So that's the information signs and everything else. It's blue or it's green. This picture I'm showing you at the moment is motorway signage. It's all blue. You can see that on the picture. It's all blue. The signage is blue, and the actual telling you you're going onto a motorway is the sign that's at the bottom of the image that I'm showing you at the moment. Then on an A route, the signage goes green. Now, in this case, this is a part of the A route that I wish to discuss with you guys. This is an A route which eventually becomes the M1, M11, and M25. And the signage above this route is actually green, and there's a 50 mile per hour sign on the left-hand side. But it will become an M11, M1, M25. That's what it's telling you. So it is going to become an M route, or it's going to lead into an M route. And then here again, this is the North Circular 406. This is signage above a normal dual carriageway motorway. You'll see there's actually 5 lanes there, 5 lanes on this A route. Okay, now this is the Dartford crossing. And what I want to tell you guys, that what I was talking about, and I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show you and tell you about it. And then you guys can tell me why you think it is. Okay, guys. So, okay. So what I'm showing you at the moment is this section where, and I've taken this directly from Google Maps. At the top of the map here, you've got the M25 coming in. And then at the junction, this is south of the Dartford crossing. South of the Dartford crossing, right? At what they call Blackdale Farm, there's a junction. And at the junction where the A2 crosses the M25, if you go north on the M25 towards Dartford crossing, it becomes the A282. Then as you go across the river, it's the A282. And then on the northern side of the river, it's the A282 until you get to the A13, where the A13 crosses. And then it becomes the M25 again. So the M25, if you go clockwise, is going to go, as you cross the A13, it's going to become the A282. Then you cross the river or go under in the tunnel, whichever one you're using. And then on the other side of the river, it again goes from A282 to M25. Now, is there anybody who wants to tell me why they did that? Why did they change it from an M to an A? Yes, Emmanuel, I'm going to give you the floor, Emmanuel.
Yes, good evening.
Evening, Emmanuel. How are you? Are you having a good year so far? Is it a good year?
Yeah, I think once they anticipate an object on the road, or should I don't know, that's the right name, because there is a roundabout there. They anticipate that it cannot continue the dual carriage or whatever, so they have to change it prior to that roundabout so that they can minimize. I think it might be similar to what Michael was saying, but probably it changes a little bit. Yeah. Because they know there's a roundabout ahead, it cannot do that, and they can't, of course, avoid that roundabout. It has to be crossed over. and there's a river, I think, somewhere there.
Yeah,
That's why
Emmanuel,
they
no,
change it to, yeah.
if you go and you look at the actual map on both
Mm.
sides, right, where it changes, where it actually changes from M to A, you'll see
Yeah.
that there is the actual main highway, the main causeway itself,
Yeah.
the dual carriageway, doesn't interact directly with the roundabout. It has on and off routes. So that's not the reason. There is, it is in what we discussed. It
Oh,
is
right.
right. So think about permitted vehicles.
Oh,
Permitted vehicles. Imagine you've got a river where you've only got certain crossing points on the river. If you can't take your horse-drawn bicycles and various other slow-moving vehicles across the river, or using the bridge or the tunnel, because it's a motorway, that's the reason. They actually, when they originally built the Dartford crossing, they actually had a bus that carried the bicycles across. And some people were actually riding bicycles through the tunnels themselves.
yeah.
So that they could allow vehicular traffic. And also, if you had a learner driver who was driving, a learner driver previously could not drive on a motorway. And a learner driver, unless a learner driver is under instruction from a qualified driving instructor, a learner driver may not drive on a motorway. But on a normal A route, a learner driver can drive on an A route. So again, you've got the river crossing, and if a learner driver is on the A13 and they want to go, they've got to get to the other side of the river, then they need an A route to be able to do that. Now, however, when it comes to a learner driver, and this is very, very important, a learner driver can go on a motorway. That was brought in about a year or two ago. So a learner driver can now go on a motorway, but a learner driver can only go on a motorway under instruction of a qualified driving instructor.
Okay.
Okay, does that answer your question, Emmanuel? Does that go?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay, so it was because of the vehicles used that they had to have a section of the road as an A route.
All
Interesting,
right.
isn't it? Yes?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right. Thank you for participating. Really appreciate it. Okay, guys. So the reason, and I'm going to go down here, I want to show this to you. This is quite important. So what I'm going to show you is, let me just see if this will work. Let me see if it works. Just give me a second. I just want to be sure you can see my screen. Yes, you can see my screen. Okay. So what we are looking at is the M25. Now, the M25 is clockwise. And it starts just as you get, here's the little blue line for the river. So as you get across the river, when you cross the river, either the bridge or the tunnel, the one is the tunnel, one is the bridge. So if you are going south, you go over the bridge. And if you are going north at the Dartford crossing, you are going in the tunnel. That section of road is the A282 for all the reason I have just given you. And the first junction after the river is junction 1A, which leads off to Erith and Swancombe. So if we then go down the M25, down the A282, it becomes, there are two junctions leading on and off before it becomes the M25, and it only becomes the M25 at junction 2. So junction 1A and 1B is still the A282, but the moment you get to junction 2, south of the river, it becomes the M25. Then it remains the M25 all the way around clockwise, go to Heathrow, go around to the M1, all the rest of those, M11. And then when it crosses the A13, the moment that M25 crosses the A13, it becomes the A282 again to go under or over the bridge. at Dartford. Interesting, very interesting. And remember, that has to do with vehicular traffic. That's why they made it like that. And it also, to a large extent, helps learners as well to get an opportunity to drive on a bit of a faster road as well. And in that section, actually, the speed limit is reduced while it is the A2, the speed limit is actually reduced to 50 miles per hour. But that is purely because of the bridge and the tunnels. The tunnels are actually slower. Okay, all right, guys, that's about it for this evening. Please do yourselves a favor and watch our roundabout videos. Our roundabout videos are very, very, very good. Even the DVSA have commented on my roundabout videos. They are the most comprehensive roundabout videos there are.
Sprinted.
It's really technically very nicely explained, very simple, very thing, and you just need to learn a couple of rules. Once you learn those rules, roundabouts become a lot easier. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I think we've handled all the many Q&As there. Well done, the girls, for the Q&As you've done. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. And please, I really mean this. It is really important that you guys understand that we will make all our resources that we need to, that we can make available to you so that you can pass your driving test. And don't underestimate, please do not underestimate BDSL online, the tuition, the roadcraft test preparation videos. They are not for the theory test. They are only there for you to be able to get the right information to prepare for your driving test. That's what those roadcraft driving test videos are there for. And if anybody's got any comments, or they don't understand, or they don't think they're clear enough, please tell us. We'll change the videos. We'll improve them. Okay? We don't mind doing that. And it's a good idea just to run through, just to go back to our YouTube channel and run through these videos, because we've been dealing with different stuff every Thursday evening. We're dealing with different stuff here, and we're going through things that are important as far as your driving licenses are concerned. Okay, getting your driving license and getting yourself prepared. Good night, everybody. Lariska, Margot, thank you, girls. Thank you so much for your help tonight, and everybody that attended, and especially all of you who participated. We really appreciate that. It's great to have you on call this evening. Good night, everybody.